Welcome to LOA Today. I'm Walt Thiessen.
With me today is abundance teacher and money coach, Jody Lynn Cray.
This is your daily dose of happy. We are so happy you decided to join us today.
And regular listeners will probably be wondering where we've been because we haven't done a lot of shows lately. Although you probably also figured out that because of the recent death of my cat Joy, that impacted me, and it has. And there's been a second impact in that my ex has the other cat, Harmony, and she's going through very much the same kind of thing right now. So we've been getting a double whammy on all this, but we're working our way through it. And we're back to doing shows with guests again. So, Jody Lynn, I think that's a sign of like, coming out the other end, right?
Yeah. Light on the other side of the tunnel.
And it's not an oncoming train, which is a good thing. So, yeah, this improvement going on.
That's right. Absolutely.
But we are joined by a guest today named Justin Smith, who is the founder of Cray. And Cray, this is a little bit of an unusual thing, but Cray is a dating safety app. And we're going to learn more about that in a moment. But we're first going to learn a little bit more about him. So, Justin, welcome to the program. And how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm sorry to hear about your cats. I know how much of a loss that is when you have a pet. It's just terrible, especially if it's a pet you've had a very long time and you're one of those pet owners that loves your pet to death. It is losing a member of the family. So I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah. Well, also, like I said, my ex has the other one. We split 3 years ago. So the cats were like the residue from that relationship because, that's what I mean. So it's just been all kind of a big bundle of all kinds of challenges, but that's right. We're coming out the other side. And yet, yes, it was horrible. It was brutal. It was a really awful experience to go through, and now we're going through it again with the other cat, but we'll get through. We always come through at the other end. That's the best part. You actually have your own crash and burn you went through. Tell us a little bit about that one, because that gets us kind of on the topic of what Cray is all about.
Yeah, that was a great segue. So essentially what happened is my partner of 8 years ended up being a mirage or an illusion. I woke up one day and she ruptured the marriage in a way that was not consistent with the values that she had set throughout the relationship for 8 years. And I got upset and she took off with our son for a month. And so I was, upset. I got a fully furnished rental, got her convinced to come back to town so she could live in there. And then the next day she created an incident to try and pull me into domestic violence situation. I went to treatment to recover. And while I was in treatment and had left her in the house with my 2 older kids from a previous marriage, I started realizing that this was not the person I thought she was. And, 3 days prior to rupturing the marriage, she had transferred herself $10,000. And a couple of weeks before that, she had transferred her mom $16,000.
Oh my God.
And so then I started thinking back, well, holy crap, for the whole previous year, she kept trying to get her name put on the mortgage for the house. And I'm like, well, thank God that didn't go through, because this woman would have had like my entire net worth, just siphoned up really quick, on her exit. And so once I realized all that, it was just like this horrific Gone Girl type experience where it was similar to being, paralyzed on an operating table and the surgeon's carving away at you, having fun, with it. It was just awful. So that's when I started trying to sort out what happened. And that's when I started looking at red flags and all those kinds of things. And that's kind of how I just found some structure or understanding about what had happened and where things had gone wrong, and maybe some things I kind of didn't pick up on. And apparently I'm really bad at finding red flags, or I used to be. So the app helps a lot now where it's all in one convenient place. So my memory won't, do me wrong anymore.
Well, actually, I would say that you've gotten better at discovering red flags. You developed the skill of discovering red flags.
Oh yeah, I guess there's some bright sides to trauma, and that it helps you learn what to look out for in the future because you've had it happen in the past. So yeah, that was kind of how I started, was looking at all the errors of my past relationships, and maybe things that were red flags that I didn't pick up on, and it just kind of snowballed from there, because there's a lot of red flags out there, unfortunately.
Definitely.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I actually look at it as fortunately, I'm glad they're out there. If it weren't for the red flags, we'd be even in more trouble than we are. I mean,
Mhm.
the red flags actually help. That's the whole point. They are red to say, hey, look, there's something going on here. You really need to pay attention to this. Now, it's up to us whether we pay attention. That's actually where the real problems come in. We aren't paying attention to the red flags. But if we pay attention, that's actually good news when we get a red flag. We're like, oh, good. I just got saved a whole bunch of anxiety later on down the road. I thank you for that.
We're listening. Yeah.
I think the tough thing these days is that people have gotten good at masking the red flags behind good behavior. So, love bombing is a great example of that people do, where, if someone's into you, it feels great. But if it's someone love bombing you, that's a manipulation tactic. And they use that to, get you ingrained in their life and, almost depend on them for that dopamine burst every day. And, that can be bad too. So, it's a lot more sophisticated now than it was 10 years ago when I was divorced before. So it's been a re-education on my part too.
You're actually, but this is partly my generation. I have trouble with things like acronyms and the newest terminologies and so forth, trying to figure out what the heck they mean. So clue me and some of my listeners in what exactly is love bombing?
Sure. So love bombing is when you meet someone and you start dating them and they just absolutely dote on you and just compliment you, buy you gifts, talk about a future, how they can't wait to, have kids with you someday, or, oh, the vacations you're going to go on. It's all this very like stuff you see in movies, where it's like this love story and so over the top. But when you're in it, it feels great. And you're like, oh my God, here's finally this person who sees me and loves on me and thinks I'm great like I am. And so you just completely, are blindsided to the fact that this person is trying to pull that over on you. But, that's just one of the many tools people have nowadays. Love bombing is just the most common, I would say.
Wow. I have to admit, that's a new one to me. I mean, Jody Lynn, are you familiar with that one?
Only from like reality TV, because that's where
Okay.
that gets mentioned a lot. Love bombing. And I mean, I understand the concept of, somebody throwing a bunch of love at you to kind of confuse you and maybe even like paint a picture of this is like the best thing ever, so that you're not seeing those little things that don't really add up.
Yep, that's true.
Why do you think that people actually engage in love bombing? I mean, yes, it's a manipulative tactic. I get that, but why would they do that? Why would somebody feel that that's a good idea for them to do that?
Well, if you want something from someone, and I'll just use an argument. Let's say I want a free meal out of you, and I am hungry, and I go around getting free meals from people because I don't have the ability to support myself. But I know that you're lonely, and I know that you have money. And so now I come into your life and I say, hey, oh man, you seem so great. We should hang out all the time. You seem like such a great person. You're so wonderful. Why is no one hanging out with you? This is such a what? I'm so lucky. And you see that just, that can go on and on and on. And next thing you know, you feel like you have your best cheerleader sitting next to you while they're strangling you to death and you not knowing it, really.
It's fascinating. It's really fascinating. I mean, part of it for me, part of the reason why it's fascinating for me is that here we have somebody that we're describing, this hypothetical person who's engaging in this love bombing technique, this ongoing pattern, who's putting a lot of time and effort into it. And that's the part that's fascinating to me. I mean, they could be going off doing something that would actually, give them the level of independence they're looking for. But no, they are going to put all the time and effort into having you give them what is apparently some level of independence, although it really isn't, because they're just going to try to take you for everything. It's an interesting mindset.
Yeah, and I think it's really, I mean, if you think about it from the standpoint of people who don't have a lot going for them in life, whether professionally or academically, and they're kind of in a dead end, how else are they going to pull themselves out of this dead end they've gotten themselves into? Or how else are they going to fill their time if they have no job or, no professional, anything going for them? They have to manipulate people and exploit people to gain finances to be able to support themselves. It's this really like dark side of online dating that has come out, and I'd say the last 10 years, because it didn't used to be like this when I was single the last time. And it was like this really like eye-opening experience, because I came back out to dating and it's like, there's very much this like, show your worth to me, or like, show me why I should give you my attention piece of it. And it's like this, it's no longer about matchmaking and finding a good person, or, someone that you get along with. It's just this superficial, whether looks or financial, capability or whatever else. It's just a very different, inauthentic experience.
I get what you're saying, because like I said, my ex and I broke up 3 years ago. And so I was thrust back in after a 23-year marriage. So it had been a long time since I'd been into the dating pool. And it was a shock. It definitely is not like what it was 23 years before. It was quite different. And I can't say I've seen this particular piece of it, but I have seen a lot of different pieces that just kind of raised my eyebrows like, holy crap, that's where we're at. I mean, some of it seemed like we'd actually regressed over a 23-year period. So I wasn't quite sure what to make of the whole thing. But this is a new wrinkle. I hadn't heard this wrinkle before. So thank you for cluing me in.
Yeah, it's funny. 23 years ago, but online dating was kind of looked down upon. And now it's like so commonplace that it's the main way people probably meet people they date, or, go out on dates with.
Well, I'll tell you something. I mean, I have tried the apps. I'm not really a big fan of them. I have met a number of people that way. I like the people I meet better just going out into the world.
Yeah.
Seriously. I mean, the apps are, it's not that they're bad people on the apps. I don't mean to put that meaning out there. It's just that I don't know. I think part of it is that when you're meeting somebody through an app, you build up your own expectations, and then you have the real person that you meet, and the real person doesn't meet the expectations, and so there's some sort of level of disappointment. Whereas when you meet somebody in the real world, there's no expectations, so you just meet them for how they are.
I think there's even more layers to it. At least this is my theory. Number one, that people do something called impression management online, because they want to put their best appearance forward for everyone. Because everyone wants to be liked. But also, I think that with online dating, there's this inherent piece of it, which is people who have a good social support system naturally find dating partners on their own, right? If you have a good job, if you have a good support system, good family, and you're a high value person, people are going to be coming to you or throwing people at you to date. And so I feel like they're, inherently people online are people who may not have that support system, or may have just moved to a new city, or there's these other explanations as to why they've resorted to online dating. And that creates complications to the experience too, because they're not necessarily on there as good, high value candidates.
Well, that's the other interesting phrase, high value. That's a phrase that definitely did not exist 26 years ago when I was last in the dating pool. That high value, what the hell? I had to actually go look that one up when I first heard it. Like, what do you mean high value? But I now have at least an idea, some understanding of what they mean by the term. And as soon as I heard the term, I realized that I wanted to move in the opposite direction of everybody who was using it, because it doesn't match me at all.
That's funny. Everyone has their own definition. For me, a high value person would just be someone who has their life together. And that means whether professionally or socially or whatever else, and someone who's maybe looking at improving their life and doing good. Someone who just has the right mindset is how I define high value.
For me, I would just find it somebody who's mentally healthy, but that doesn't seem to be the way most people actually define it.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's the.
Jody Lynn, I mean, you've been in a solid relationship now for a number of years, but it's not all that long ago that you were out there. How did you think of that term? How did that apply in your life?
High value. I don't think I ever put those two words together formally, like consciously, but I know that I was definitely evaluating value or not. And I think it was kind of, do they have their shit together? I remember the moment that I met my husband. Obviously we weren't dating. He was a stranger, and we didn't meet online, but I run a financial brokerage, and one of the girls that was working for me, he was her ex. And so she gave me some insight about, his financial situation and like that kind of stuff. And I was like, okay, because like that's my job. He was coming to a presentation. And so she was just giving me the context that I needed essentially before the presentation began. And so when I met him for the first time, at that point I was single. And I remember looking at him and saying, wow, he's like a unicorn. He's actually good looking. And I knew this insight about him, that he had his own house and he had money in the bank, and like he wasn't a train wreck like all these other guys that I had dated previously. I was like, wow, he's got his shit together. So that's what I would have said a high value individual was. Now, like taking a step back, I don't judge somebody that doesn't have all of the things. But I think that mindset piece is such an important thing, that somebody's striving towards the things that I'm striving towards or was striving towards at that point. That was really a critical piece for me.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
That brings a good perspective to the whole thing. All right. So now that we've gotten past my need to understand what this whole high value thing is all about and all the different aspects of it, let's get back to the story, because the story, the narrative that you're telling us is how you went through this crash and burn period, you learned some stuff, and then you decided to take that to other people to help people avoid some of the pitfalls that you had encountered. So fill us in on that part of the story.
Well, I mean, it got to a point where, because of my professional history, I was a part owner at a test publishing company. I had worked there for 10 years, managing the marketing. And I actually managed the release of the first concussion app for the iPhone back in 2011.
Wow.
I was the project manager, the interface designer, everything. And that's really what gave me the experience to be able to work on Cray. Because as I was diving into, understanding what happened, I also came to kind of a sobering realization that this could either be something that destroyed me, or I could use it to help other people. And so that was a turning point, because my whole support system abandoned me. I didn't have anyone. Really? And so I had to go through all of this by myself, and going through the worst event in your life by yourself and having to claw your way out of it is god awful. Like, it is awful. And going through that just made me think about where my values and priorities were in life. And, you create, your value set. So mine are kindness, family, and loyalty. I believe that those are, inherent parts of myself. And so I leaned into that, and I wanted to create this app to help other people avoid the same fate as me. Because, here I was, someone who went through a horrific previous marriage, didn't want to date anyone, got pulled into a second marriage by this great actress who then ended up fleecing me and turning my family against me. So if it could happen to me, I had to make sure it didn't happen to anyone else, because I was in a unique position where I understood how to make an app. I had, launched many products, marketing them at the business I worked in. And I had this traumatic event where I literally saw the solution, written out in front of me, and I was in a place to fix it. So I jumped on it, and I spent 18 months building the product, thinking of ways to catch people like my ex, or like the other people I've met online over the last 18 months that have tried to blackmail me or other things. And that online is a horrific experience these days as a man, because the understanding is men go online because of the ratios and all that. And so it's very easy to prey on someone on a website where they catfish you with a fake picture and get you to text them on a phone number, so they get your phone number, and then they can use it to, it's just all sorts of inauthentic stuff. So over 18 months, as I stepped on these landmines, I built in safety protocols in the app to try and help people to avoid them too. So
I have to admit, that was one thing that when I re-entered the singles realm, so to speak, and started encountering the apps, I encountered, the catfishers and the con artists and so forth pretty quickly. And I think probably for me, just because, I've been around for a while and I'd been through some stuff. So they didn't, there was one who almost kind of got me for a little bit. And then I realized, oh, that's what this is. I've heard about this. Okay. So they couldn't really hook me, but I could see how somebody could get hooked on some of these things. And, because some of these con artists are very, very skilled. And not just with dating apps, so just wide ranges of different kinds of cons going on that they basically have minimal or no consequences for in most cases, which is really something. But if you don't have the kind of background that I've had, that could be a problem. I can see how that could be a real problem. And I can see where an app like yours could be of real value. So I'm curious, what kind of response have you gotten? How long has it been out, and what kind of response have you gotten on it?
It's been out since October. So
Okay.
that's when it first launched.
Mhm.
And there's been a lot of back and forth with Apple, unfortunately, over some things they didn't like in the app. So we had to
Apple's
remove some
tough.
of those.
I've done some app work myself, so I get the whole
Oh
process
man.
with Apple.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've been trying to update the app now for like 2 or 3 months because
Yeah.
they cut off the in-app purchases and people are getting mad in the comments, like thinking that I'm stealing their money. And it's like, no, this is Apple. I'm not doing anything, you know?
Right.
But yeah, I'm sorry. This is where I go back to I'm terrible with questions. I got sidetracked on the frustrations with Apple and it just tossed me off my track.
Well, the basic question had to do with how when we're faced with these situations, it can be a challenge, and because of that, you create your app. And so the question I'm asking is, first I asked how long had the app been out, and then what's been the response to that app, given
Yeah.
the scenario that we've laid out here.
Sorry, apologies. So I'm up to
That's
about
all right.
500 downloads now of people that use the app. Just keeping on chugging. I'm trying to get it baked in. The business model is to get it baked into college freshman orientation.
Okay.
So that fresh 18-year-olds out of their parents' house, where they have no guardrails, they
Yeah.
have no understanding of what to look out for, they have no tools in their toolbox.
Right.
This is perfect for them because I was that 18-year-old that
That's your target market, really, is the young ones.
Yes, or the people that are fresh out of a divorce,
Okay.
who are just re-entering the dating market because, as you learned and as I learned, it's
Oh,
a
yeah.
re-education process.
Oh yeah.
And then the last group is people with trauma, because people
Mm.
who grew up in traumatic households with traumatic, role models, they don't recognize red flags as red flags because their dad used to drink a case of beer every night, or their mom used to beat them every night, so they don't think it's a big deal.
Yeah.
So those are really the big 3 groups that I'm trying to help, because I think those are the low-hanging fruit of who could, really,
Sure.
really benefit from a safety standpoint.
Yeah. And what's the response been so far?
It's been great. People love the app. They feel like it provides them clarity. I have gotten some negative pushback on the branding, but that's like a small percentage. But I expected that, and I kind of wanted that to happen a little bit because, when people see a brand and it's a little controversial, they want to judge it and they jump in to judge.
Oh yeah.
And I feel like when someone goes to do that with my product, they'll actually see that it's a great tool that has validity and everything else. And it's something that can really help people. And the branding is just to take the edges off, make it humorous, because psychology, substance abuse, abusive domestic violence, these aren't fun topics. So, if you don't approach it with humor, people aren't going to want to engage with it.
Well, plus Jody Lynn and I are both entrepreneurs. We get that side of it. And the simple fact is, I don't care what kind of business you create, there are going to be some people who won't like it. Doesn't matter how good you are, doesn't matter how wonderful the service is, doesn't matter how everybody else, there are going to be some people who, for whatever reason, just don't jive with your particular product. They just won't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's wonderful. I mean, if only that existed when I was 18. I can see that I wouldn't have had a lot of different relationships that I did have, because I didn't know what those red flags were. I didn't know that people would manipulate you. I'm just naturally very gullible. And that is, I mean, there's great things about that, and there's really awful things about it too. I just trust people way too much, even to this day, even though all the things that I've been through and all the things that I've learned, I probably shouldn't trust people as much as I do. But that's kind of who I am. So I think that that's a godsend for people who are gullible or naive, or just young and haven't experienced it. I think it's amazing.
Well, it's not just going to be somebody who's young and naive. I mean, like we were talking about before, the con artistry has gotten very sophisticated. So,
100%. Yeah.
I mean, I'll tell you, has nothing to do with dating, but I have a friend who very, very recently, I got into a phone conversation with her and learned that she was within, I would say, an hour of having her personal finances grabbed by a con artist who had convinced her that he was from Facebook when I knew for a fact that he wasn't.
Yeah.
And I couldn't convince her of that. There was nothing I could, because she was so totally taken in by this guy that she thought I was lying and I didn't know what I was talking about.
Yeah.
And honestly, Justin, what I had to do is I had to take like a 50-50 coin flip shot, hope that it came out my way and say, I predict he's going to do this. He did. And then she started to believe me. That's what it took for her to finally shake away from it.
Wow.
You know, and this is not a young woman. This is a woman who's in her early 60s.
Mhm.
So, you know, con artistry is very, very sophisticated these days.
Oh,
It's not
yeah.
the young who are affected by it.
Oh, absolutely. My sister just got conned by somebody saying they were Walmart something or other. And like, yeah, before she was off the phone with them, like thousands of dollars gone. Like, it's just, it's insane what people are doing.
Oh, absolutely insane.
I think I read that due to relationship scams over the last few years, it's like $3 billion.
Wow.
Like it's an insane amount of money that's being siphoned out of the US just from romance scams.
Yeah. I've had a couple of clients who have had different romance scams, and it's really difficult because as like a financial professional, there's lines that we have, like questions that I'm supposed to ask. But, you know, if you want to take money out of your account, I can't stop you from doing that. You know, I can warn you. And for me, I have such a big heart and I have such good relationships with a lot of my clients. They become really good friends or, you know, an extension of family almost. And that's so incredibly difficult when you can see like, this doesn't sound right. This doesn't feel right, but you can't stop them from moving forward. It's scary.
Yeah, I think that's the interesting thing about the human body, though, too, is we get these somatic signs, you know, like our stomach gets upset or there's our heart's racing, but we're like, no, that can't be, you know, like we fight with those somatic signs as if they're not, you know, telling us a larger story, you know, to be careful about.
Yeah. Does your app touch on that?
Not on the somatic. Somatic signs take some education, actually, because there first needs to be the recognition of the sign, but also then the understanding of what feeling is causing that sign. Like for me, when I'm anxious, it's my stomach. When I'm angry, it's through my chest. You know, so you have to start, it's almost like having a divining rod where you're, you know, looking for the signs from your body and being able to mitigate any issues and understand kind of what your body's telling you that your brain isn't.
Yeah. And then learn to see that as real time things are happening and then learning to trust it. I know that I think long term, you're really helping people with the ability to trust their gut. Because I know after my very first relationship, serious relationship out the gate when I was young, very mentally abusive, you know, there was a lot of manipulation. You tried to segregate me from my family, told me my family would never take me back because I was an awful person and I did all of these things and whatever. And I believed him. I believed all the things that he was saying. Luckily, I had enough really good friends and good people in my corner that I could, and I felt safe enough to ask some of these questions too. But I remember this one conversation with my dad where I said, you know, I don't think things are the way that I thought they were. And I don't think that this is the place that I want to be, but we owned a house at the time. So, and the market was down. So our house was worth half of what we had into it. And I just really felt like I was stuck. And I remember him saying, oh, I thought you knew he was that way. And it like hit me like a gut punch that like my dad could see this. And my dad's not one to tell me what to do because that makes him mad. So he won't tell anybody what to do. He won't give advice. But I couldn't believe it because I did not see it. And then looking back, I saw how volatile it was, how like throwing things across the room and breaking a bunch of shit is not how your partner should react when you're trying to talk to
really,
feelings, right? Like, but I didn't clue in that this, I just thought this was the way that it was in relationships. You yell and you scream and you fight like that. And, you know, oh, when we get married, it'll be better. When we have a baby, it'll be better. Thank God we never crossed those bridges. But I didn't see all of those things until I saw it. And then I really questioned, like, how did I not see that? Like, it was so obvious and so blinding. But I mean, back to your fact where you started with the love bombing and things like that, the game of manipulation of somebody who wants to manipulate you, they're very skilled at it.
For sure. And I think it's, you know, it's similar to the lobster in the pot of boiling water. You know, when you put You put the lobster in at first, it's comfortable, but as that heat starts rising, it doesn't realize it's getting cooked till it's dead. And it's the same, it's the same thing with gaslighting. My ex was the same. It gets to the point where it feels like you're in a car accident into the water and you're trying to figure out which direction is up or down, and you can't, because they've gaslit you so much into not having the confidence or the security in your own judgment. And so now you're second guessing everything, because like, oh my God, am I even seeing this right? So yeah,
I would totally have conversations like that with my one friend, my best friend, Anita. I would be like, this is what's happening and this is how I feel about it. And she'd be like, yeah, you're right, Joe. Like, that's reasonable, logical. Like, I think that you should approach it this way. And then I would go in with like those facts in my head of like, no, this isn't right, or this isn't what I want, or whatever it may be. And then I would call her a couple of days later, or she'd call and check on me. How did that conversation go? And I would be so turned around. No, it's my fault. And I did this wrong. And I did this and I did that. And she's like, I left you in a good place. What happened? But he would just spin and spin and spin until I would just believe, oh, it's my fault. I caused this. I did this, which wasn't true.
How long did it take you to get shaken from that, do you think?
We were together for, I think, 6 years.
Yeah, but after you broke up, how long did it take for those effects that he had on you? I mean, because that's got to affect your ability to,
years and years. I would say that it took me probably the rest of my 20s, because we broke up when I was 26, the rest of my 20s and a lot of my 30s. I think the only reason that I got into a really healthy relationship, before I entered that relationship, I had another bad relationship, lots of red flags I didn't see, kind of not same things, but like similar patterns and everything. And when I got out of that relationship, I decided I am the common denominator in all of this. And I need to take responsibility for the way that I'm living, and I need more tools and I need to learn about different things. And I was on a journey about learning about myself. So I'd gotten my confidence back, but still not 100% there. And I actually hired a relationship coach before I ever got into a relationship, worked with her on calming my nervous system and being able to recognize different things. And then when I met my now husband, I had her for like the first 6 months of our relationship so that I could go back and forth. So kind of like your app, I had somebody else that was on my side and that I could talk to and just, is this right? Does this feel right? Like, why is this happening? Or how about this? Or like just different things, because my nervous system was so wired to just cut and run.
It's amazing how long it takes.
Yeah.
How long those scars last is just obviously depends on the person, and it depends on what resources they have available to them. One thing that I feel like I realized through my experience was that self-love is the key to recovery from a situation like this, because usually why this happens is, I don't know about you, but what I learned about myself, I'm a pleaser, and it's one of the things I love about myself. I'm a giver. I help the homeless, but it has to go to the right, avenue. Otherwise, a manipulator can exploit that. And so boundaries were a huge thing that I learned that came out of the self-love, because if you love yourself, then boundaries are a natural secondary, consequence of the self-love, because you won't tolerate people mistreating you if you love yourself.
Yeah.
And so that's one thing I like to talk about too, on, when I'm talking about my experience and kind of what I learned from it, that anyone who wants to recover from trauma has to lean into self-love first. And that doesn't mean like the extra Twinkie, out of the package, at dessert time. That means going to bed early, making the right decisions for yourself, eating healthy, exercise, all those kinds of things that put the value of yourself up here, so that when the bad actors come in, they're way down here and you're like, I don't want to spend time with you because I treat myself up here.
And it's the self-talk too. That I think probably the harshest part of having that kind of an issue is the way we talk to ourselves.
Yeah.
And when we can change the way we talk to ourselves about ourselves, that alone, I mean, there are lots of different ways to do that. We've talked about many of those methods here. Journaling is a great way to do it. Mirror work, affirmations. There's all kinds of different ways to do it. But the point is, when we talk about and to ourselves in a kinder a more loving way, in the way that we would actually treat our friends, not the way we previously treated ourselves, which was we would never have a friend if we treated a friend that way, But when we change that around, that's when the whole conversation shifts. That's where the whole experience shifts.
Yeah.
No, I agree. And it's been interesting. People from your old life who see that transformation may not be okay with it because they're used to being able to treat you how they used to treat you. And now they won't be able to treat you that way. And it's going to be this whole other reorganization of how you communicate and what you tolerate and those kinds of things. And that can be earth shattering to the people around you if you're making the real good work and, making progress.
It's actually a good thing. But when you go through it, it feels like you're losing everything. You really aren't. What you're losing is the dross that you shouldn't have in the first place. It should never have been there. But because you're losing it, it's crazy. It creates a gap. And the real secret I found is that the people who get the most benefit out of that kind of transition are the ones who look to upgrade their contacts. They're the ones who look for, who are my real tribe? Who are my real people? Who are the ones that I really want to associate with, the ones I admire, the ones that I love, that I know that love and care for me? Who are my real people? If you if you go out with the attitude of finding those people and not putting up with the trash talkers and the people who tear you down and so forth, then you can get through that more quickly. But there are a lot of people who they try to make some changes. They notice some of the people being left behind, so they can find more people who are like the ones they left behind. Yeah, that's the part that I understand why it happens, but it's also, to me, that's the biggest trap, because now you're getting stuck right back into that old life again. That's how you can end up being, divorced 3 or 4 times. That's how you can end up with the same pattern happening over and over again in your relationships, because you make some changes and then you go right back to where you were before.
Yeah.
There's a mindfulness and a needing to be present in every moment that is an exhausting piece of the work, because you have to look at, through that lens at all times. Am I being aligned to the value set that I've created for myself? And if you're not, there's going to become this vibrating uncomfortableness where you're unhappy with your life if you're not living in your value set and you're not surrounding people with those values and that value. It just is this whole chain reaction of unhappiness and despair.
Yeah. And it's mind-blowing when you realize it.
Totally. And terrifying.
It's both. Yeah.
I think it's almost like easy. You finally get the algebra equation in math, and then you're like, oh crap, now I have to use it and know how to use it all the time.
Yeah. That's right. Now the work begins.
Like we joke about the woman who complained that she joined the health club and then she found it wasn't going to do her any good unless she actually went to work out. Just
yes.
Oh man, that's the hardest part about self-work, I think, is, people sign up to do these classes or to get a therapist or whatever, but then when they hit the wall against where the actual work begins, where you have to actually adjust your behavior and all that, no one wants to do that. Accountability, I feel like, is a very lost value set or art in our society anymore. People just want to be able to do things and not be accountable. But I'm in the business now of holding people accountable. So
it's almost like we took that trauma and now it's like, instead of learning, now we have that conscious observance of what happened, these things that are happening, but instead of the accountability piece and moving forward, like changing, like you were saying, a lot of people use that as their crutch. Oh, this is wrong with me. So you just must accept, I just have trauma. You got to deal with it. You deal with it. I don't deal with it. It's like, no, that's not how it works.
Yeah, it's almost like people, I think, when they learn a diagnosis, they use it as a license to misbehave, so to speak. Whereas it should really be looked at as almost like, you get that report when you take your car to the mechanic and they're like, your alignment's off this. That's how you should look at it, is here is what I am. So what things do I need to put in place to, inhibit me from ruining my life or messing up my life or going bad pathways or whatever to end up in the good place.
Yeah.
One thing you can count on with the universe, though, is that the universe will keep sending red flags your way.
Oh,
I mean, that's a guarantee. And it has an incrementation system to it as well, because the first red flag will just be a little flag waving in your face, and the second one is a bigger flag that waves in your face, and then if you ignore it again, then it'll tap you on the shoulder. And if you ignore that, it'll give you a push on the shoulder. If you ignore that one, it gets out the 2x4, and that's the way it tends to work, right? You know, it's giving you more and more. Hey, pay attention. There's something going on here that you really, really need to pay attention to.
It's
So it's not like
true.
we don't get signals. We do get the signals. What's fascinating is how good we are at ignoring them.
Totally.
Right?
Convincing
Especially if it goes
ourselves.
against,
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, especially if it goes against our own, like, you know, opinion of ourselves, or, you know, the assumption we've made.
Yeah,
Right.
I'm smart. I know I can call people. I can get people. I see people where they're coming from, and then all that goes out of the window. Just like, red flag, what?
Yeah, right.
So
It's
true.
really
I
funny.
think
Yeah. I was gonna say, after my last relationship, before I met my husband, I thought it was a very quick relationship, like 1 year. We were engaged, and then like a month after getting engaged, we ended up breaking up. And thank God. But I remember thinking, like, I just don't get it. I thought everything was really, really good, and I thought everything was perfect, and I was really like lost in that. I couldn't understand, and I remember praying, like I was crying, and I got down on my knees, and I was like, God, can you just show me what I missed? And it was almost like this movie was running in front of a screen in front of me, and I could see it all the times, like, oh, that there, when he did that, that's not in alignment with your values. That's not something that you would want to have in your partner. That. And it was just like, oh my God, I missed all of it. I can't believe I missed all of it. Like, it was not a relationship that was in alignment with where I wanted to be or go.
Well, I think, you know, people can miss a lot of red flags. One thing I've left out of my story, I think you guys will appreciate this. Have you guys seen the movie Gone Girl?
No.
Have you seen?
I don't think so, no.
Okay, so now you have to watch it, please.
Okay.
It's this movie about a woman who years in advance plots to frame her husband for her murder. So she creates a fake journal where she writes out a whole fake narrative story that he's abusive and he's been doing all this stuff to her and beating her, and then one day she disappears and leaves blood in the kitchen and all this other stuff and goes off and lives another life, and he has to deal with the like fallout of his wife disappearing, everyone thinking he murdered her. Well, the whole time I went to treatment for the 2 months to recover from what my wife did, I told everyone, I said, she gone girled me. Well, when I got out of treatment and finally got back into the house, in the movie Gone Girl, the character who has that journal leaves it behind in a specific house to get the husband caught at some point. When I moved back into the house after she moved out, she left behind a book that was our newlyweds book that we had filled out during the first year of marriage.
No.
And in the book, one of the questions is, what is your favorite book or movie? What do you think she listed as her favorite book or movie?
Gone Girl.
Wow.
It's on my LinkedIn page. You can see the actual picture of it. I put it in my presentation when I go and speak places. But I literally started laughing because, I mean, I was just like, I've been saying this for 2 months straight. And what are the chances this woman left literally the book, just like the movie, like literally trying to show it to me that she gone girled me and rub it in my face. So it's just like this crazy experience too. And just to show you, you know, you miss all these signs, and we even filled out this book and all, you know, it's just, you never know, you know, if someone is a really good manipulator or a really good actress or actor, they can get behind, you know, the enemy walls very easily.
Yeah.
Fascinating on so many different levels.
Totally.
It's fascinating
I know-
psychologically.
I'm thinking about writing a book about it, to be honest, and about my experience, because there's some other stuff I haven't mentioned about the family stuff that had happened that is just this huge messy web of things that she created. So it's gotten to the point where people are like, you should write a book or you should make a movie about this. So I'm at the point now where I'm like, maybe I should.
Yeah.
I think you should.
Have some fun with it at least, right?
Yeah.
We see a book in your future. I think it's
Definitely.
there. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think it happens more often than we think it does. Maybe not to the scale or level that you experienced, but I think that there's everything, below that and then beyond that, that people have experienced. And learning from somebody else's experience in life is so much easier than having to go through it.
For sure. I've been going around talking to my business is now hosted at the University of Tampa. I'm in the incubator there. And so I've been going and talking in front of UT students about my experience just to try and save them from like maybe some of these steps I took. So, if I say, hey, look, I almost died, don't do this, then hopefully, I can save some lives. Because, I think that is the best part about what happened to me is I have no shame in talking about it. So I can make this into a butterfly effect and hopefully save a lot of people either through the podcast, talking on podcasts, or through them using the app. I mean, 500 people, saving 500 people from trauma. I'm doing great already.
Yeah.
You're making me think of a situation I went through this past summer. I was seeing a woman, Jody Lynn knows the story because I was sharing all of it with her off the stage here. And I mean, I really totally felt for this woman, but every step along the way, despite the fact that I really cared about her, I also felt like I was trying to help her get to where she said she wanted to be, which she really didn't want to be yet. And every step along the way, I kept getting signals that said, well, that's not what you do if you're really trying to get there. And it was a head scratcher, but it was, for me, it was enough to just kind of take it carefully, just see what happened, and then watch as it fell apart. And I look back on that now in the context of this conversation. I say to myself, I was seeing the red flags. I was noticing what they were happening. I was trying to find a way to make them work and so forth, but I was still seeing the red flags. Can I think of a situation where I didn't see the red flags? And the only one I could think of is the end of my marriage. My marriage was very good. I mean, we were together 23 years. The first 20 years were actually pretty good. They were really, really good, in fact. It was the last few years that the communication just fell apart. And I did see red flags happening, but what I didn't do is believe that they were red flags I needed to do something about. And the main reason for that, in my case, my ex is a former psychotherapist. She understands all this communication stuff. She understands all this relationship stuff, but she wasn't following her own knowledge. And I thought for sure she was going to. I thought for sure she would follow through on the things that she knew that she had to do because she's been counseling clients on it for years. And then she didn't do it. So that's my experience with seeing a red flag and just not responding to it. I still can't think of a situation though where there were red flags and I was just completely blinded to them, like I did not even seeing them. So I'm fascinated by that piece of there are red flags and you just don't even see that they're there. Can you talk about that for a little bit?
Well, I think you have to take into account there's a wide variety of ages and experience levels with dating. So yeah, there's going to be people who on the young side are going to be completely blindsided for the first probably 5 years they're dating on every issue that's a red flag. But for some people like us who are older, I think for me, those things that we sit there and like push out of our head, I had those too. Like even when we were filling out that newlyweds book, I'm sitting here writing 3-4 lines and she was writing like 5 words. And I was like, wait, I'm your newlywed and you're excited to be married to me and you're only writing in 5 words per thing. And I'm writing, a paragraph. That's kind of weird. So, I think we as humans notice these things and just blindly push them out because we don't want to believe what it likely means. At least that was my case. Because I think there was this inkling inside of me where I was like, much like you said, that the words and the actions weren't lining up, much like that woman you dated. And that's one of the red flags in the app, actually, is words and actions not lining up. Okay. Because, you should always judge someone on their actions. I could sit here and tell you I love you to death while I'm stabbing you in your back or while I'm fleecing you of tens of thousands of dollars from your bank account and turning your kids against you. So, there's a lot of, that's why I always say, ignore the words in a lot of cases, unless they're saying some crazy out of pocket stuff that obviously sounds crazy. But I always try and look at people's actions. Are the actions that line up with how I want to be treated and with how they indicate they would treat someone they love or that they would want to be with long term. So, you know, I think that's how I try and look at it now, because I don't think we're ever completely blindsided, because I think the human brain is really good at like sensing things in the periphery that it doesn't yet understand but feel dangerous.
Yeah, I think so too. Right. And the tendency that we're talking about really is the tendency to pretend that that's not there or ignore it.
Well, and I think that
absolutely.
we're built with this gut-brain connection, where our gut, like animals, is filtering frequencies or vibrations, and it clocked it, and it sent you a message, and the brain received it, but we're just not willing to open up, you know, the message in the inbox to read it.
Which really means that the root of this goes back to what you were talking about, Jody Lynn. You mentioned how you realized you were the common denominator in all those situations with those two relationships in particular. And the idea of facing that you're the common denominator really starts with saying to yourself, you know what? I did know there was stuff and I didn't pay attention to it.
And I don't say that from a place of like justifying or, you know, like okaying the things that happened, especially in that first relationship, because there was a lot of lines that were crossed. But for me, it was an opportunity to say what you just said. You know, I saw those things in the back of my mind. I knew that it wasn't right to be treated that way. Like I knew I flat out just buried some things. That first relationship, my brother and I were living in the same apartment complex. So him with his girlfriend across the building and me with my boyfriend. My brother just followed me to that building because he didn't know the city very well and was like, oh, it must be safe. First night he was there, he had his truck broken into and all of his shit stolen. So not a good idea. but anyway, nevertheless, they were there. And my brother and I were super close, and I was close with his girlfriend, and I was always going over there, and they were trying to pull me into awareness. And I said something, and I honestly do not remember this conversation. But I said something to my boyfriend at the time, and he said, "You're not allowed to see them anymore." Wow. And I didn't. And I actually told them that. And that is something that I just suppressed for a really, really long time until it was all over. And then they told me that, like, you weren't allowed to see me, and it registered like, oh yeah. Isn't that weird? You live in the same building as your brother and his girlfriend, and you're not allowed to see them. Like, family is one of my biggest values. So huge red flag. So in those moments of I'm the common denominator, I saw those things, and I kept going with those things instead of sticking up for myself. And how could I stick up for myself? How could I have that support? And, you know, that's really why I hired that coach, because I did a lot of work on my own and in a lot of different areas, relationships with my family and friends and coworkers, and even just confidence in myself. Like through that first relationship, I went from being confident and outgoing to like a shell of a person that people would describe me like a little mouse. I would just do my work in the corner and I wouldn't say anything because I had deteriorated so much. But knowing that I have somebody on my side to just be there to help me or to back me up. And I think that's why the app is so beautiful, because the relationship coach cost me a lot of money. You know, it was $500, $600, $700 a month or whatever it was every month. And it's something that I felt I needed, and financially I could afford it, but not everybody's there that they could do that. And I think there's more people that need it than we really even know.
Yeah, and that was one of the reasons I made it free too, for the Cray score and the schemer score, because if I was going to help people and have this big impact, I couldn't charge money for it. You know, like think about all the people like you that were in that bad relationship that don't have the money to spend on it. You know, even $1.99 purchase for their own safety. You know, just to me, it didn't, going back to values, it didn't align with my values to sit and charge money if this was a trauma thing that, you know, I was trying to save the world. So,
that's a huge thing, by the way, aligning with your values. That's probably the first thing that goes out the window, particularly in entrepreneurship, because when we first start out, we're afraid and we're going to screw things up. So we got to be very, very careful about everything that we're doing. So throw the values out. Let's follow what the advisors tell me, because my values really aren't going to match with them. So no, keeping your values, being true to your values when you're launching this, that's huge. That's absolutely huge.
Absolutely.
Well, when I went through what I went through, I similarly consider myself to be a good person. And there's a song by J. Cole called Love Yours. And in it, he talks about not letting them change you, not letting the bad people change you.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't going to, like much like you, Jody, the kindness, the good parts of me that are just this pure part, like in the video games, I always chose the good character and I couldn't say any of the mean things. Like I was that guy.
Mm-hmm.
So for me to, I wasn't going to let these bad actors come in and shit all over me and ruin me and then turn me into this bad person. I think there's something to be said when someone goes through hardship. Do you change the constitution of who you are as a person? I don't. I'm not going to let these bad people change that. And so that's, why I've been pushing this app so heavily, trying to, be the do-gooder and the force of good, because there's so many forces of bad in this world. It's unfortunate, really.
Yeah.
And there's something to be said for pursuing a project like this, because it feels good when you do it. I mean, I know you. I can just tell from the conversation we're having here, it feels really good to be doing what you're doing with this app.
Well, it helps heal my trauma, to be honest. That's one of the things I've really been working on is being the gladiator for my inner child. That's the term I like to use, because I like the ferocity of the defending of the inner child, and the accountability of going against the people who maybe harmed you. And I felt that that's just part of who I am too, is going out and righting the wrongs that are out there, including this one, which is the safety issue that's out there. It's something that could easily be solved. We really just need to put the checklist in front of young people, so then that checklist gets ingrained in their head. And then now for the next 80 years that they're alive, they can avoid all this crap. So that was the joy that I found in this is healing the trauma by being able to keep people from ending up where I was, or even taking away the power that the evil people like some of my exes might have over people, and ruining that manipulation game that all these people are using online. I mean, imagine if I was the guy that fixed that. That would be crazy.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the Cray Dating Safety. I mean, what is the actual app name? What is it?
Yeah, it's Cray Dating Safety. So there's an app in the App Store. I'm coming out with the website soon because Apple made us take out the background check and the catfish check. They said that we're creating profiles of people, collecting third-party data without their consent. Okay, so we took those out. But that's the app that's in the App Store right now. I'm coming out with the web version, and it's really basically a checklist of behavior observations about the person you're dating. And they're broken into categories of Cray score is the red flags, which are signs and symptoms of some major mental health disorders. The schemer score is more deceptive manipulation, markers. And then the other ones are more about gaining insight about the person through their history that you can find online. So you can know who it is you're meeting. But the goal was to basically give a kind of a litmus check of, is this person, showing major red flags, or are they trying to game me?
That's fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. So Jody Lynn, I always like to go to Jody Lynn at the end of the show, because first of all, you can tell what kind of person she is. She's really sharp. She's just got all this fabulous knowledge and so forth. But I also want to know how she kind of tying it together, because she has a really great perspective on that. So Jody Lynn, I know I can just tell you got everything going here, but how are you tying this one together? It's
so interesting. When we were off air and right before we came on, and you said it was a safety app. I never check who we're interviewing, because I like to be surprised and engaged and just in the moment. So that was the first that I heard about it, and I was thinking like your drink, keeping it safe when you're at the bar, like something like that. That was the first thing that occurred to me. But during this conversation, what we've really done is just opened this Pandora's box of of how relationships can be dangerous and can lead you down the wrong path, or you can get led down the wrong path because you're not observing some of these red flags. And it's so interesting because relationships, I think, are the number one thing people try and manifest in their life. Maybe it's only second to money. Like they're both right at the top. All that we want is love. We just want to be loved and love others. And it's become difficult in this world that we have. And, you had said there's some bad actors, but there's also some really good people that are out there too. And they get taken advantage like this. And I know that, I've been in certain situations and you guys have been in certain situations where that's happened. And what I love about this conversation and about this app is it's just an opportunity for your heart not to harden, for you to learn the skills, for us as individuals, those that are in the dating pool, especially obviously with this app in mind, to learn the skills to weed out those people, to understand themselves better, and to understand how people are presenting themselves and get to the genuineness that is actually there. And I just love that so much. And I really do think that for those who have experienced the trauma, this would be a safe place, a safe hand to hold, if you will, like a best friend that's going along the journey with you to, have your six, so to speak, as you take the journey. And for those that are just new in the dating pool or re-entering the dating pool, the same thing, having somebody by your side that can watch out for you and help you stay in alignment with the things that you say you value and the things that are important to you. And that's such a beautiful thing. So thank you for creating that, Justin.
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate the recognition, and for you guys having me on the podcast. I really do appreciate it. Telling my story to as many people as possible so that they learn from my experience and hopefully, save some gray in their beard for a little bit older than I am. So they, make it through life, not stepping on so many landmines. Then that would be great.
Good stuff. Actually, that leads into the final thing I like to do with these shows. Because now that we're in this 21st century where all this crazy stuff's going on online, but there's also a lot of cool stuff going on online. I mean, you're in Tampa, Florida. I'm in the Hartford, Connecticut area. She's up in Alberta, Canada, and we're having a conversation like you're in my living room. This is pretty cool.
It's great audio quality and video quality too. You guys have a good setup.
Yeah, so I mean that's the beauty of what we're in right now. So we're in an age now where you were able to put out an app, for goodness sake, and you're able to reach people with that app, and you're able to touch people's lives that you never even meet them in most cases. I mean, a few cases you'll get some feedback or something, but for the most part you don't even know how they're using it. And you're coming onto podcasts like this and you're sharing this story and you're touching lives again in ways that you don't even know about. And I noticed that because we live in this era where all this is happening, there's a lot of stuff that those of us who are the givers, because you're a giver, it's very clear that you're a giver. Givers are giving, and there are certain situations where they're not getting credit for it. And one of them is all the different ways they're sharing online. So that's why I developed a new habit. I like to say, Justin, on behalf of those people that you never met and never seen, and never will meet, never will see, who you've been helping in ways you didn't even know about just because of all these messagings that you're doing and putting the app out and so forth. On their behalf, thank you for what you're doing, because you are making a difference in this world.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And that's the way I like to look at it, is every day is an opportunity to save some more lives and help some more people. So I appreciate you guys having me and recognizing my mission and being a part of helping me in it. So
keep doing it. You're doing a great job, my friend. Really good.
Well,
so thank you much. Thank you to our podcast listeners everywhere. And we will see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.